So, what if the right way to speak English wasn't decided by native speakers anymore? Yeah, that's what we're diving into today, the huge, constantly shifting future of what we call global Englishes.
Okay, so the global reach of English, it's just exploding. And get this, an estimated 2 billion people are now learning or using English as a second language. That's that's a wild number, and it's literally changing the DNA of the language. And this chart, it just lays it all out, plain and simple. Just look at that difference. The number of second language speakers, that huge bar right there, it absolutely dwarfs the number of native speakers. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the balance of power here. So you gotta ask, what's fueling all this growth? Well, it really boils down to three big interconnected forces. These are the things pushing English to every corner of the globe and, changing it along the way. All right, first up, you've got the ongoing global influence of the US. That's kept English right in the spotlight. Then you layer on globalization. I mean, all that international business and science, it just creates this real need for a shared language. And the final piece? Information technology. The internet, social media, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire, just speeding up how often we all interact with each other and with English.
And yeah, that tech piece is a huge accelerator. Just think about it for a second. Social media, online gaming, forums all over the world. These are brand new spaces where all these different kinds of English are just crashing into each other and mixing together in real time. It's speeding up language change like nothing we've ever seen.
So all of this global spread, it brings up a really important question. Who actually owns English now? Seriously, because as the language's center of gravity shifts, the old rules are kind of going out the window. And this is where it gets really interesting. The reality today is that English is used more for conversations between non-native speakers than it is with native speakers. Think about a software developer from Brazil working with a designer from South Korea. Their common language, it's gonna be English. This whole situation has led to a completely new way of looking at things. It's called English as a lingua franca, or ELF for short. And with ELF, the main goal isn't sounding like a perfect native speaker. Nope, it's all about successful communication. That's it. Yeah, and this slide breaks down that shift perfectly. On one side, you have the old model, where the goal was to sound exactly like a native speaker. But now, in this new reality, the goal is totally different. It's all about effective intercultural communication. And guess what? Every expert user gets a say in how the language evolves. And what that means really is that the traditional authority of the native speaker is fading. The whole idea that there's just one correct way to speak English, well, it's just not as important anymore. Okay, so this huge shift makes you wonder, right? What's the long-term future here? If the rules are being rewritten, what is English even going to sound like tomorrow?
I think one of the biggest questions people ask is, will English just break apart? Will it end up like Latin, which splintered into all the different Romance languages we have today, French, Spanish, Italian, and so on?
So, is that going to happen? Well, the consensus among experts is probably not. It's actually pretty unlikely. Even with all this diversity, there are some really strong forces that are, holding the language together and stopping it from shattering into a million pieces. So what are those forces? Well, for one, widespread education and global media give us all a kind of shared starting point. Plus, the simple need for international trade and science means we have to be able to understand each other. But maybe the biggest thing is that we as humans are just really adaptable. We naturally tweak our English based on who we're talking to, a local friend versus someone on a video call across the world. So, the future isn't some chaotic world of 100 different broken Englishes. No. Instead, the only thing we can say for sure is that the language is just going to keep changing. It's a living thing. And that brings us to this idea of a polycentric future for English. Polycentric just means it has many centers of influence. It's not just going to be the US and the UK calling the shots anymore. We're going to see new hubs of influence in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, all of them playing a part in shaping where the language goes next. All right, let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? First, English is still expanding like crazy all over the world, and digital communication is just speeding that up. Second, that old idea of native speaker rules is weakening. And finally, the one constant for global Englishes is change. It's just going to keep evolving, and that's what makes it so exciting. And just so you know, this video is brought to you by the IELTS Focus Zalo 0847 705 973. They're an English center that specializes in IELTS preparation.